You can see there is still broken glass here for more officers had to break open some doors and windows to get inside the Rastafarian church to serve that search warrant. Neighbors actually say that the suspect's car came into this cul-de-sac, came down here, and ended up stopping inside of this driveway while the family who lives at this house hid in a closet. 2 days after Watson was found at this home on Lyman Lane, investigators are still on scene, and there are still many questions as to who killed Watson and why.
So you are giving a lot of people hope by opening up this conversation. Is that your intention?
Absolutely.
It's still pretty chilly out here, but I talked to many people who tell me they are ready to feel the burn and they're ready to listen to Bernie Sanders' message. People who live here on North Webb Avenue woke up to this, their entire street covered in water. As water from the Baraboo River recedes here in Laval, the theme of the day was cleanup. We have seen it all today. Cars driving down this sidewalk, cars driving the wrong way down this road here, children playing in these floodwaters. Of course, all things that police say you should not do. Behind these doors, the jury must answer one question this week. Were the women too drunk to consent to sex with Quintez Cephas, or did they know what they were doing? They come complete with heating, cooling, and a silent alarm that triggers law enforcement within 30 seconds of a baby being placed inside. But did you know that costumes just like this one are also included in that sales tax exemption as long as each item costs $75 or less?
Sometimes you're really hurt.
The emotions come in waves.
And sometimes it's a good day.
For Imani Jones.
Or a good hour.
He was on the other side of the world traveling Vietnam when he got a FaceTime call telling him his 17-year-old brother Shay was dead.
When the words came out, it's like your body doesn't have time to react, you know? You like try to cry, but no tears are coming out.
And different emotions embody how he remembers Shay.
He had whatever he was dealing with, and, we got to see, that side. We also got to see the smiley side, the joking side, the fun side.
Fitchburg police say Shay Watson was shot to death at his home on Lyman Lane, but they have not made any arrests and have refused to provide many details to the public or to Shay's family.
Outside the immediate circle of me and my mom and Shay, I think that, justice is a really big thing on their minds, because they kind of don't have to think about things that I have to think about.
What Imani means is his thoughts of the everyday and the days that won't come.
My future with my little brother's been taken away.
A thought he says is constantly in the back of his mind.
That's the hardest part, to not have a little brother at your wedding anymore. Or when people ask you how many brothers do you have, I don't know what to say anymore.
While police still look for leads in Shay's murder, Imani says that hasn't hit him yet.
The murderer, I'm a pretty strong believer in karma. And if we don't get justice in this life, they'll get it in the next.
But for someone who just lost his little brother 3 weeks ago, he's taken a surprising perspective.
I have to find things to be thankful for in this situation. I'm thankful that it's shown me, this new side of compassion.
Choosing to try to find new positive emotions in himself.
We have to find ways to smile and ways to be joyful. And if we're not, what's the point? What's the point of Shay dying? What's the point of anyone living? If we're just gonna be sad all the time.
The faces.
I have to live without my child every single day.
The names.
My only child and son, Clinton Hall. His fiancee, Katie Pasqualini.
The impact from people like Marla Hall, whose son and his fiancee were hit and killed in 2016 by a drunken wrong-way driver.
And right now, I'm angry. My son should be here. My son and Katie should not have to have part of them in this little urn.
An emotional plea with emotion she lives with daily.
This is my son, and this is his fiancée. This is what I have every day. And I lost my baby. And he was the world to me.
She's calling on lawmakers to pass 4 bipartisan bills sponsored by Representative Jim Ott. One would make a first-time offense into a Class C misdemeanor.
We're the only state that handles first offense OWI and not making it a criminal penalty.
His other bills would require first-time offenders to physically appear in court and up prison sentences for certain OWI offenses.
There's too much drunk driving in Wisconsin. Too many people are injured. Too many people are killed.
Representative Ott is a Republican who also signed on to a Democratic bill that would require all first-time offenders to use ignition interlock devices for a year.
No life has been untouched by drunk driving in this state.
Currently, offenders are only required to use the devices if their blood alcohol content was 0.15% or higher at the time of the incident.
Having it in the first offense, having it in every conviction will create a change in the culture, which is what we need to shift.
A shift that faces opposition from some of Senator Chris Larson's Senate colleagues.
Some of it they say this will kill tavern business. They say that people won't go out to bars anymore.
But families say those costs are nothing compared to those they've faced after losing someone they cared about.
I'm doing it for him. I'm doing it for the future of his friends, the future of their children, their grandchildren, because it's got to stop.
I'm suffering, and I really need help. Someone to listen to my story.
Derek McCann's story is one filled with searching for a job.
Weekly.
For his kids, who he hasn't seen in 8 years.
I missed their whole life because of this.
And for a place to live, as right now this is all he has.
And that's the reason why, I'm kind of in tears because, I've been fighting for my life for years.
But mostly he's fighting and searching for redemption.
I'm a man that deserves a second chance.
Derek is open about his past with the understanding that this is not who he is. He pleaded no contest to a felony, second-degree recklessly endangering safety. Court records show a friend of his girlfriend at the time says he tried to strangle her. It happened in 2004 when Derek was 19.
I just got caught up with some wrong people at a wrong age.
He says he took a plea deal because he didn't understand the severity of a felony. To this day, he regrets that he didn't go to trial.
And I'm now 33, and that still haunts me.
But now that is what keeps him going.
Dear Governor Tony Evers.
And propels him into action.
My name is Derek D. McCann.
Turning to one of the only people who can wipe his slate clean.
I'm asking to have my felony in Wisconsin expunged in Wisconsin.
And like Derek,
first of all, I believe in redemption.
Governor Tony Evers says he knows the importance of forgiveness, too.
Some people do some bad things, and if they've straightened their life out, we have to be willing to give them a second chance. So I think there's a moral issue here.
When Evers took office in January, he assumed the constitutional authority to grant second chances in 3 forms.
Wherever the governor thinks that justice is served, he can grant that pardon or clemency or reprieve.
UW law professor Keith Finley explains that reprieves usually only happen in death penalty cases, which Wisconsin doesn't have. Clemency alters a crime's punishment. That leaves pardons.
An act of grace is what they call it in the law. It's an act of forgiveness.
He says pardons are often considered the fail-safe in the legal system. But breaking tradition from previous state leaders, Evers' predecessor, former Governor Scott Walker, didn't issue any over his 2 terms.
After 8 years of complete inaction and unresponsiveness to all of a sudden turn the spigot back on, there's bound to be a lot of pent-up demand.
So you are giving a lot of people hope by opening up this conversation. Is that your intention?
Absolutely. And not having hope when you should have hope is the wrong thing for the state of Wisconsin to stand for.
Walker never appointed anyone to the pardon board, but that didn't mean the inquiries didn't pour in. Requests that are now coming to Evers' office, more than 1,000 since January of this year.
So your staff told me that this is actually your office's most contacted topic. Does that surprise you?
Not at all. It was that during the campaign. I hear it everywhere.
Step 1 for Evers will be putting together his pardon advisory board, which he hopes to have up and running by summer. With about 15 people total, the board will likely include victims or relatives of victims. He says his decision will not necessarily be about trying to distinguish whether someone is innocent.
I think most people are people that have come to reconcile themselves with what they did wrong and want to make it the best of their lives going forward, and we want them to be part of our society.
That is why letters, emails, and phone calls continue to pour into the governor's office.
I have wrote my elected officials, even Scott Walker, past governor of Wisconsin, never got a reply.
As people like Derek plead their cases.
I need someone to listen to my story. Nobody ever did.
Once Evers' team puts together the formal application,
I plan on submitting it, and I'm looking forward to a new future.
Derek plans to be first in line.
I'm really looking forward to someone really new eyes looking at my case.
And he's hoping that will bring what he's been seeking all along.
My story going to inspire others to never give up.
Rose Schmidt, News 3 Now.